I want to quickly talk to you about how to use a serialized inventory to track stock levels. The thing is that whether you have a brick and mortar facility or you have an online store, basically serialized inventory can really help you big time, especially when it comes to optimizing productivity. So here are the trends I want you to think about. The thing is that when you think about serialized inventory, I want you to really understand that this is a process that allows you to track individual products all the way from the manufacturer to the consumer, right? So we are speaking here about actually having a monitoring system from A to Z. And the thing is, product serial numbers are useful in various ways, like helping manufacturers track output and retailers, such as you and me, manage sales. And again, I want to insist on the fact that it doesn't matter whether you have a brick and mortar retail spot or an online store. And the thing is, since each serial number is unique, you can also use those numbers in an inventory management process known as a serialized inventory. Okay. Now, let me dig a little deeper here. So, when you think about serialized inventory, what is it? Let's have a conversation about that. So, serialized inventory management uses a unique identification number or serial number to record critical information about each item in stock. So, you have a clear idea what you have in stock. And the number actually shows where, let's say, a particular product was manufactured, for instance, shipped and sold to a customer. So that's kind of cool because it gives you more granularity about each product. So the serial number also allows your company to track a product after purchase for things such as warranty claims and product recalls. So that's kind of cool. So overall, serialized inventory tracking is used in many industries, particularly those with high value products. This includes cars, for instance, trucks, auto parts, appliances, consumer electronics. You have aerospace and defense systems, medical equipment and pharmaceuticals, and luxury goods such as jewels, watches, and designer handbags. So we are speaking about a lot of a lot of ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Okay, the higher the value, the more important it is. So what about serialized versus non-serialized inventory? The main difference between serialized and non-serialized inventory is that serialized products are uniquely identified, allowing manufacturers, distributors, and retailers to track individual units separately through the supply chain to the end customers. So you have a clear idea, you have a lot of visibility. So some serialized products also contain serialized parts. For instance, the microchip, battery, and camera in a smartphone each have their own serial numbers. Now, what about non-serialized inventory? Non-serialized inventory generally consists of lower value goods made and sold in bulk, such as clothing, household products, processed foods, and raw materials. So let me talk to you about the pros and cons here. I want to first talk about the advantages and the advantages of serialized inventory, and then I'll speak about the drawbacks. So first of all, when you think about serialized inventory, you have product ownership verification, you have inventory tracking, you have warranty, recall tracking, and quality control. Let me break it down a little more. So when I speak about product ownership verification, I've already established that when you think about serialized inventory, you are speaking about high value item, directly or indirectly. Okay, so a serial number can confirm actually a product's purchase history and prove ownership. It's all about having a clear idea. It's all about tracing the product. So if you are a retailer and someone brings a product back with with a complaint or a warranty claim, for example, the serial number ensures the buyer purchased the specific product from you, not from a competitor. Okay, because you have a lot of scams in the market. People buying stuff from one retailer and actually returning the stuff at another retailer. So besides product ownership verification, you also have inventory tracking. So serialized inventory tracking refers to knowing where a product is located and its status. And the serial number could tell whether the product is still in a factory, in a warehouse, or on store shelves, or if it's been sold to which customer and where. In other words, you have a lot of traceability. You have a lot of transparency. You have a lot of visibility, okay, into the origins and destinations of the product. What about warranty, recall tracking, and quality control? Well, the thing is that if you have a high value item, you're going to have a warranty attached to it, right? Many products include a warranty that the product meets specified standards to ensure quality control. So a serial number can help verify whether a product is covered under warranty if the purchaser seeks a repair or replacement. It's also used by manufacturers and distributors to track owners of items in a product recall. In other words, if there was a problem for regulatory reasons, a lot of manufacturers will go through the serial number to actually contact the buyers. So, an automaker, for example, might recall cars with a specific make, model, and a year if it discovers a defect using serial numbers to contact owners. And I'm still talking to you about the pros and cons of serialized inventory. Okay, so another advantage, you have regulatory compliance, you have also theft and fraud protection, you have control of pricing and discounting, you have demand forecasting. Also, let me uh, let me dig a little deeper here. When I speak about regulatory compliance, some industries must serialize their products for tracking to comply with regulations for proper use and storage. In the States, for instance, serial numbers are used to track medical devices and pharmaceuticals, which are really regulated by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, as well as firearms, which are really overseen by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which is really a part of the Treasury Department. So there are industries that the government has actually classified, or let's say categorized as sensitive, quote unquote sensitive. So they will track everything in that industry. You also have theft and fraud protection. So serial numbers can help track stolen or missing products from a store, warehouse, home, or office. Serializing also can help deter shoplifting and employee theft. A serial number also certifies a product's authenticity and helps thwart counterfeit items from being passed off as genuine. This is critical for buyers and sellers of luxury goods, which typically command premium prices based on their limited supply and brand value. You also have the ability to control pricing and discounting. So, detailed actually data from serialized inventory allows retailers and distributors to see how long a product has been sitting in storage and can influence pricing strategies. It's all about supply and demand, okay? High demand items might spur a price increase, while older items might get discounted to clear them out of storage. You also have demand forecasting. So, data collected from serialized inventory tracking can actually lead to a greater accuracy. So, analyzing this data using inventory management software can actually, in turn, improve demand forecasting. It's all about actually having the proper software, but also the proper operational construct. Let me give you an example. An electronics retailer might use serialized historical sales for flat panel TVs to see which size outsells other sizes, influences influencing actually a future orders. Let me talk to you about the disadvantages. I mean, it's kind of cool to have a clear idea about the advantages, but nothing is perfect in this world, right? So it really helps also to know about the cons. So if you are going to think about serialized inventory, you I have to think about the cost. The budgetary aspect is really important. High cost. There is actually more data to manage. So if you do not want to really manage more data, don't go with serialized content. Okay. And also there is a lack of interchangeability, even though AI, artificial intelligence, is actually starting to change that, helping a lot of customers to change that. So what do I mean by interchangeability? Let's say I like a sweatshirt, which can be easily substituted for another sweatshirt. Each serialized item is unique with its own factory to consumer history and can always be readily substituted. So in other words, serialized inventory items often are not fully interchangeable in the same way bulk inventory items are. This means a customer seeking to exchange a serialized product may not receive an exact duplicate of his or her initial purchase. So this is a bummer, but hey, listen, it is what it is. What about the high cost? Well, high cost. I mean, if you think about it, Serialized inventory management actually calls for a certain layer when it comes to a technology, right? Here you have a system that requires coordination with suppliers, so they are all capable of reading and recording the same inventory information, and that really includes a barcode all the way to a QR code, okay? And it also means what? It means a significant investment of time and money, including an inventory management software. And it may actually take longer to recoup this upfront investment. Serialized inventory increases efficiency in the long run, but that doesn't really contribute to the bottom line. I'm speaking here about 5 years from now, 10 years from now. That's when you actually start seeing the real benefits. You also have more data to manage. So serialization produces more detailed information about each item, including any embedded parts with their own serial numbers and their movement from manufacturer to customers. So you'll need a lot of sophistication on the tech aspect of things. You will need a robust inventory management system, let's say to handle the greater data load. And you got to have a team also to really help you manage that data. So something to really keep in mind. So let me talk to you about the advantages of non-serialized inventories, because there is also a positive aspect when it comes to a non-serialized inventory. First of all, you have simplicity. Don't forget though, when we speak about non-serialized inventory, we are speaking about bulk items. We are speaking about mass productions. Okay, so you have simplicity, you have lower cost, and you also have a pretty interesting sort of quality. In other words, non-serialized inventory is sufficient for low-value bulk items across the board. Okay, not just today or 3 months from now or 3 years from now, but even 10 years from now. Let me dig a little deeper. When I speak about simplicity, for a smaller business, inventory management may require only manual counting or checking a physical spreadsheet. And these companies probably don't need serialized inventory or extensive supply chain integration, especially um, so sorry about that. I apologize. So basically, what I'm trying to say here, let me drink some water, please. Thank you. So what I'm trying to say here, when I speak about simplicity, basically you don't need to have extensive supply chain integration, especially if the goods are not really that expensive. Because why would you want to track goods that are not, let's say, in in their entirety or in their unicity, not that expensive? You also have a lower cost to think about. So when you have non-serialized inventory, serializing costs money to implement and maintain. A simpler non-serialized inventory management system is actually usually less expensive to manage, not only in the short run but also in the long run. And you also have when you have products in a non-serialized inventory process, they are usually of a lower value in contrast to a laptop or a piece of jewelry. So if your business sells sweatshirts at $40 each, for example, it's probably not worth the cost and effort to create a serial number for each one. It really doesn't. It doesn't really help at all, especially considering that you have alternatives. You can actually sell the shirts. You can go through a print-on-demand process and actually outsource the whole operation and not do it yourself. So you don't even need to touch physical inventory anymore. You are actually outsourcing the work to a third party. Let me give you a top hacks that you need to really keep in mind if you are thinking about serialized inventory. So how do you manage serialized inventory? In other words, if you have inventory that's costly, if you have inventory that's of high value, if you have inventory that calls for regulatory compliance, and that regulatory compliance actually wants you to really serialize the inventory. So inventory serialization entails some big considerations about your supply chain and actually setting up an inventory management system. You got to really have that. I mean, see, when I'm speaking about system, I'm speaking about the manpower behind the system too. In other words, the staff involvement. You got to allocate some kind of human resources to that inventory management system. So serialization tends to work best if it's applied throughout the supply chain. And here I'm speaking about actually the itinerary that starts from product designer to manufacturer to distributor, and finally to retailer. So you can see that you really want to include all the stakeholders in the supply chain. And so when I speak about that, I'm speaking indirectly about supply chain integration. So if you want to really implement inventory serialization effectively, you got to think about supply chain integration. And what happens here is that when you integrate pretty well your supply chain, actually everyone in the chain relies on the same serial numbers, allowing actually consistent tracking of a product's journey all the way to the customer, right? So you want to really instill an extra layer of transparency, if you will, an extra layer of clarity into the whole process. Another way to think of this is that serialization starts upstream in the supply chain, with manufacturers creating and attaching the serial numbers, retailers, shippers, and warehousers, and others downstream in the supply chain simply record the serial numbers and use them to track and manage the flow of products. So if you are using serialized inventory, inventory management software is essential because serialization produces more data with more complexity about each numbered product. So although it's possible to set up a serialized inventory manually or with a spreadsheet, the work could be tedious, error prone, and time consuming. So there are actually many providers of cloud-based inventory management that can handle let's say serial number goods in a very effective manner. Before I close to this conversation, I want to really quickly I want to give you a few extras. So basically, when you think about a serialized item, let me give you an example so you have a clear idea or a clearer idea about what I just spoke about. So serialized items are all around us, but usually they are high value. They are high monetary value. Okay. For instance, you have cars, you have smartphones, you have medical devices, you have home appliances, and also many luxury goods such as watches. Those have serial numbers. So if you're buying a Gucci bag or let's say whatever luxury item you buy, you got to really think about the serial number, which is really good because if you are a customer, you want to really authenticate the product you are buying. So when you think about serialized inventory, what is the difference between that serialized inventory and lot numbered? So lot numbered inventory assigns an identification number to a batch of the same or similar product items, such as a 100 count of large size men's casual strap shirts or a pallet of bottled pain relievers. Each item, a shirt or a bottle of pills, is actually indistinguishable from the others in the lot. Serialized inventory, in contrast, distinguishes each individual item with a unique serial number. So remember, the serial number is unique, okay, to that particular item. And so a lot of industries commonly use serialized inventory, okay? If you have an industry that sells or makes high value goods, they typically use serialized inventory tracking. So I'm speaking here, I think I've told you before, you have luxury goods makers, the Gucci, the LVMH of the world, medical device manufacturers, pharmaceutical device manufacturers, smartphone makers, computer makers, aerospace companies. Those are really big users of serialized inventory. Okay, I mean serialized inventory management. That's for sure. So, but the thing is that in the end of the day, serializing your inventory provides two key advantages. You have greater accuracy and more insights into the status and condition of your stock. So these advantages mean that you will know how much inventory you hold, where it is, like store shelves, warehouse, or a factory, how old it is, who bought which products, and when each product may have a warranty claim or recall. So here's an epilogue into this conversation. I spoke to you about how to use serialized inventory to track stock levels. I give you the trends, the pros and cons, and the top hacks. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.